Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm doing a review of Messy Roots by Laura Gao, which is a graphic memoir of Gao's experiences being an immigrant from Wuhan, China to Texas and growing up and just sort of discovering her identity as a queer Chinese American artist. I loved this memoir so much, so I want to tell you all about why this worked out so well for me. So first, the artwork in this graphic memoir I think is so well done. It is so expressive of Gao's emotions and the experiences that she went through. I loved the colors and the line work. I thought that the kind of graphic design, the layout of the panels was also very, very effective. There was so much in this that conveyed the experiences in a really vivid way and made you feel immersed in her story because of the quality the artwork. I also liked that there were multiple styles of artwork used throughout this to sort of embody different experiences. So there's kind of the general style that is used, but then there's a different style that is used for example, for nightmares, and that feels like a nightmare type of experience. Or there's also a different style that is used when she is talking about going to college and trying to choose her own adventure, and it's done as a little bit of a game design. And all of this just uses the art to bring to life her experiences in such an effective way. The humor in this also really worked for me. Gal went through a couple of things that were kind of challenging for her, but the way that she uses humor to view and process and sort of lighten this experience, it really worked for me. I laughed so much throughout this memoir, and I thought that the anecdotes that she told about her family were hilarious, and the way that she just, with sort of gentle humor, poked fun at herself and some of what she was going through, I thought made this just such a relatable and very amusing memoir. And that humor is really balanced out by a lot of the depth of the experiences that are explored in the memoir. So she talks quite a bit about the immigrant experience, coming to the US without speaking English in elementary school, how she felt very much like a fish out of water, felt pressured to sort of conform, the ways that that led to her maybe distancing herself from her Chinese roots, only to later as an adult realize that she'd, internalized some of that racism, and the work that she had to do in order to really reverse that and re-grasp onto her roots and relearn Chinese and all of these things. And I loved the way that she went into kind of that nuanced discussion of how do you deal with that being an immigrant and what that means and what culture you identify with when you're brought up in such a mixture. The family dynamics in this are also so well done. I loved the humor and joy and just complicated interactions with especially her younger brother and her cousins and her grandparents. There's so much humor in those relationships. And there's also some tension in especially her relationship with her parents. Her parents are, very driven to succeed, and they want her to often keep her head down and sort of conform in order to be able to kind of make it as an immigrant, because that's their experience. But this clashes a bit with a lot of the things she's going through in discovering her own identity. She's already struggling because she is more interested in art than she is in math and science. She's more athletic rather than just somebody who, studies all the time. And then as she develops and grows up, she realizes that she's also queer. So when she goes away to college and has that opportunity to explore her own identity, she realizes that this is an important part of her, and trying to navigate those relationships with especially her family while being queer is really a big part of this, and puts a lot of depth and heart into it. And just lastly, the way that this book really explores her identity as a Wuhanese immigrant to the US is so well done, especially in the context of COVID, which is kind of when this was written. So there's so much in this about her trying to navigate those relationships and understand her roots and her connections to Wuhan, while also dealing with being in the US, having grown up mainly in the US, and the perception that, especially during COVID, so many people have of Wuhan, and just trying to reconcile all of these different things. It's really, really well done. And I love the way that the title, Messy Roots, kind of ties everything together and is repeated in different ways throughout the memoir. It is just fantastic. Overall, I think that if you have any interest in graphic memoirs, you should for sure pick up Messy Roots. It is just such an excellent memoir. I love the illustration. I loved the explorations of identity and culture and all sorts of different issues related to her experiences. These are just so well done in here, and it was really funny but also really emotional and just very impactful. So I highly recommend this. If you guys have read this book, or if you have other graphic memoirs that you'd like to recommend to me, I'd love to hear from you. Just leave me a comment down below.